Hi, I'm Jeremy Poole. Welcome to this tutorial on the Recollector editor. Just a note, this tutorial is really intended for people who are already users of Recollector and are familiar with the basics of the editor but want to learn how to customize it. If you are not yet a Recollector user, I recommend taking a look at the Introduction to Recollector video at this same website. So I'm going to be showing you a variety of ways in which you can customize the Recollector editor. And through these customizations, you can make the editor easier to use, and you can also make data entry faster and less error prone. Almost all of the customizations that I'll be showing you today use what are called pick lists. And a pick list is a list from which you can pick a particular word or phrase to quickly fill in a text entry field in the editor. I will be showing you in a moment the pick list manager, which is where you create pick lists or update existing pick lists. But to get started, what I want to show you is what does the editor look like when it comes right out of the box with no customizations at all. And in this example I'm showing you, this is a map collection. And by the way, this is being shown on the PC version of Recollector, but the Mac version looks very much the same. You can see that the editor window just shows a series of text entry boxes. The boxes vary in size depending upon the type of the data field, and a few of the data fields you'll notice have little buttons to the right of them, like the date field. And that's because some data types, like the date one, has a little extra window that can pop up to facilitate entering data of that type into the field. But now I'm going to switch and show you the same editor, but after a set of customizations has been applied to it. You'll probably notice that it looks overall very much the same as the editor I just had up there before. But if you look carefully, you'll notice that some of the fields on their far right have little down arrow buttons, indicating that those are fields that have a pick list associated with them, and you can pick a value to put in the text entry box rather than having to type it. Now I'm going to be showing you a series of 5 different pick list customizations that you can apply, and we'll take a look at how each one of those is created. The first kind of pick list is what I call a strict pick list. And let's look at this condition grade field. Notice that it has a down arrow. I can click on it, and there's a list of values that I can choose from to fill in what goes into that field. It's called a strict pick list because it doesn't let me type in something other than one of those 9 or so values that were there. This is a case where I wanted to be sure that the values I had in this field are only one from a specified set. So it's a strict pick list. So let's take a look at how that pick list was created and how it is applied. And okay, the name of the pick list I used in this case is quality. And if you look over on the right here, you will see in the pick list manager, it shows that condition grade is the field which this particular pick list is associated with. Over on the left, it shows you what the values are in that pick list. Since we're in the pick list manager for the first time, let me take a break and show you how you create a brand new pick list. So basically you click on the create button and you're now asked to give a name for a pick list. Well, let's say we wanted to have a pick list for the 4 seasons of the year. So let's call it seasons. And then we just type in the values we want to include in the pick list. And spring. And that's really all there is to it. And I can click OK now, and that season's pick list is now ready to be used. Let me show you a different one. First, let me clear out this one here. And let's manage, we had a state pick list when we wanted to be able to choose from among the 50 names of the US states. We could type all of those 50 state names in, or we could take a shortcut. Notice at the bottom there's an add values from a text file button. If you have a text file that has a set of values, one per line, you can use that. You can read it in and load the pick list values from there. And it's very easy to get a list of the 50 state names from the internet, and I've done that. And I have a file called states by size. I'll open that up, and it's loaded in now, my 50 state names. Now this happened to be the states by size. So the biggest state at the top, Alaska, down to Rhode Island. Maybe what I really want for a pick list is an alphabetical list. I can alphabetize the list with this A to Z button here. So let me click on that, and there we go. Now I have a pick list of the 50 states with very little effort involved. Okay, at this point, let's go back and continue looking at how the quality pick list is used to create a strict pick list. Notice that this button labeled strict is checked, and that's what causes this pick list to have the strict behavior which we just saw. All right, now let's look at a non-strict pick list. Very similar. Let's move down to color. Here too, we have a drop-down list, and I can pick from one of the elements that are on that particular pick list, and there's 5. But the difference is this one is not strict. So in the pick list editor that we just saw, the strict checkbox was not turned on. And this means I can type something new, like somewhat later color. I don't have to use one of the ones that's in the list. I can use it. It speeds up data entry when I do want to use one of the common ones. But if I have occasionally something that's different, I can type it in. So that's the second kind. The third kind is what I call an auto pick list. And it's used here in this map maker field. Let's take a look what happens when I click the down arrow there. See, this is quite a long pick list. It has a lot of names of, in this case, map makers. The names are kind of complicated sometimes, long. And this, I could have set up a pick list by entering all of the names of the map makers I thought I was ever going to see. And that would have taken a long time to set up this pick list. But I didn't have to do it. And let me show you, first of all, how this pick list is configured, and then how it works. So let's go back to the pick list manager again. And I'm going to go to a pick list named Auto. And notice over on the right, it shows that MapMaker is a field that is associated with this auto pick list. But instead of having a list of values, it just has one value, the word auto, all in caps and between square brackets. And that's a magic little code that tells Recollector that it should automatically construct a pick list based on the values that already are found for this field in the other records in the collection. So let's go back to the editor again and bring it down. So what has happened is that Recollector has searched through all of the records in the collection, found all the values for the MapMaker field, and done, in this case, an alphabetized list of all those names. And I can simply pick from it. So I can add a name in, and if I'm getting a new map and it's by some map maker that I already had a map by, that's all I had to do. But it is a non-strict form of pick list as well. So if I have some brand new map maker that I've never seen before, John Smith, and I finish entering this record, the next time I add a record and I do the drop down for map maker, I will see John Smith among the names there. So it's a very easy way to generate a pick list that is based on the information you already have in the collection. Next, we're going to look at multi-select pick lists, and take a look here at the tags field. It's got a different kind of checkbox on its right. And a multi-select pick list is one where when I click on the checkbox, instead of just a list of things to choose from, I get a list, but it's a list of checkboxes. And I can pick one or more than one to use to fill in this field. So let's say I pick framed, separately issued, and uncolored. And notice down at the bottom it says semicolon is going to be my separator. Okay, I'll click OK. It now has filled in all those three values without my having to type it. And so for the unusual case like this one where you have fields that might want to have multiple known values, you can use a multi-select pick list. And let's see how that was set up in the pick list manager. We'll go to the tags field, tags pick list, and there it is, and it's a strict pick list. These multi-select pick lists have to be strict. It's associated with the tags field. But notice that the name of this pick list has a plus sign at the end. And that's the little trick that Recollector uses to tell the program that, oh, it's not just one thing that you might want to select. It might be more than one. So put a plus sign at the end of the name of the pick list, and it'll behave like we just saw. Finally, let's look at checkbox pick lists. Notice this last field here, separately issued. That shows up no longer as a text entry box like it did before we did customizations. It now shows up as a checkbox. I can click on it to turn it on or off to turn it off. Let's see how that is set up in the pick list manager. This uses a pick list I've named yes, no. And notice it is indeed the separately issued field with which this pick list is associated. At this point, let me just quickly mention, you can associate the same pick list with multiple fields. So you might have 2 or 3 fields in your collection which are yes, no kinds of fields, and you can associate this same pick list with all 3 of them, not just with one as we have here. And notice in the values, I have 2 values, and the first one is preceded by the word checkbox and a colon. And again, there's a little bit of magic that Recollector uses to tell it, okay, show this particular field in the editor as a checkbox. The set of values you can have for one of these can either have 2 values like it does here, yes and no, in which case if the checkbox is checked, the field will have a value of yes, otherwise it'll have a value of no. Or if you only have one line, just checkbox colon yes, and I didn't have a no entry, then if the checkbox is checked, the field will contain yes. If the checkbox is not checked, the field will be empty or contain the missing value. Okay, now I'm going to show you a few more customizations. The first one I want to show you is kind of similar to the pick list idea. And take a look at this region field. This is just a one-line text entry field. It does not have any pick list associated with it, but I happen to know that I have in this Greenland collection a number of region names which I use and reuse. I could have made a pick list for them, but another thing I can do is if I start typing and I type 1 or a few characters and then hit the escape key, the program will go and look in all the other records, look to see what values the region field has that begin with those letters. So in this case, there happen to be 3 in there that all begin with GR, and I can pick one of these if I just want to reuse it. So it's a little bit like picking from a pick list, but it didn't involve creating a pick list. There's a similar kind of capability that you can use even with fields that have pick lists. If you type the first couple of letters in a field that has a pick list, it will also match what's there. So for example, on color, if I say O, it immediately put in original color because that was one of the values it had. But both of these are cases of what's often referred to as auto-completion. So it automatically completes it if you type the first few bits. Over here in printing method, this is again a field with no pick list, and I know it has one of the printing methods is woodblock. So if I just type W and hit escape, it fills it in with woodblock. That's because that's the only existing value in that field that begins with W. So not only, it doesn't put up a pick list for me, it just fills it in right away. Let's look at copy and pasting fields. Sometimes you might be adding multiple items, multiple related items to your collection. For example, suppose I went and acquired 5 new maps for my collection, and they happen to all come from the same place. They have the same map maker, the same date they were made, the same size, the same width and height, and I'm now going and doing data entry for these 5 values. So I would start by doing the first value that I'm going to use, and I will type in the map maker, and let's say that's the map maker name, and I'll put in the title, whatever it happens to be. I'll just put in a dummy for now. And the date, let's say I know the date is 1750, I'll put that in. Let's say the height is 10.5 and the width is 18.0, and I would go on and fill in the rest of the fields. But before I exit from entering data for this field, I can use this Copy Fields button. And let's bring that up. And this shows all the fields that have some values in them. But let's clear them all out and say what I really know is the map maker, the date, the height, and the width. Those are all going to be the same. I don't want to have to re-enter those each time. So I'll say copy those selected fields. And now, after I click OK and add another, or let's just manually add another, at this point, I can use the Paste Fields button. And what it will do, it will paste in the values that I previously had copied. Notice over in the field names of these ones that were copied in are all underlined. That's indication of which ones are available to copy. Okay, there is a set of preferences that are specifically related to the editor. And let's just take a few of those because they also relate to making the editor easier to use, more efficient. Okay, there's a spell checker that you can take advantage of if you turn on spell checking. So let's do that. And let's say when I was doing data entry, I misspelled page. I typed it with 2 G's. Notice that when spell checking turned on, it highlights that word. I can also right click on it and brings up a suggested spelling correction. So I can do spelling correction, taking advantage of the spell checker. You'll notice a lot of words up in a couple of these fields are indicated as possible spelling errors because these are foreign language words or strange personal names, and so it thinks that these aren't real good English words, and they aren't, but I know to ignore that. All right, let's take a look again at some other preferences. We'll turn off spell checking for the moment. We can increase the size of the large text entry boxes if we want more space here to fill that in. And by the same token, if you're entering a lot of data, as we have here, sometimes you might want a lot more space than even 5 lines or 10 lines gives you. And these large text entry boxes give you the ability to edit in a pop-up window. And so we can bring up a pop-up window and we can make that window larger. We can, type a whole essay's worth of information in here more comfortably than we can in the smaller text entry box. So I want to show that. I'll go back to a 3-line box here. And notice that I have a checkbox turned on here for compact layout. What that means is that though the editor will come up in a single panel with vertically aligned fields here, if you make this editor window wider, eventually it'll be wide enough so that Recollector thinks it can lay out your fields in 2 panels. Each panel is kind of vertically aligned, and as before, it does allow you to have two fields if they're short fields on the same line, but it's wrapped now into a second panel. And here you see all of the fields in my collection. They all fit without having to do any scrolling. And that can be very convenient if you're doing a lot of data entry. You don't want to have to be scrolling back and forwards. So that's the end of this tutorial, and I certainly hope you will learn something from it to help make you able to customize your own Recollector editor for ease of use and efficiency and enjoyment of the product. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.